In a world where space and time are intertwined, one man dared to challenge the status quo. His name? Dayton Miller. His weapon of choice? A flute. But not just any flute. This instrument held the power to unleash the ether, a pervasive medium once thought to fill the universe. Miller, a physicist by trade, a musician at heart, discovered a harmonic resonance within the ether. He found that his flute, when played with precision, could manipulate this elusive medium. His melodies, a symphony of science, had the potential to shift the very fabric of reality. However, a sinister force.
Hola, we're live. Welcome to the Ether Cosmology Twitter community session. I actually had you super muted, Shane, so I didn't hear anything that you said. Go ahead and repeat everything verbatim. Go ahead.
I can speak, but I can't see or interact with any menu. That's still on the phone.
Hell yeah, brother. That's what's up. Sounds like a
So
good time.
if I look on the phone, I can tell that you're co-host and that Ken has requested to speak. Okay. All right. So
Dude, we got to get... I'm sending out mics to the boys. I am 80.
Brian,
833 has some stuff to promote as well.
Mr. Actually, just give everyone a mic.
Did.
Everybody here. Okay. Perfect.
So it's working good for everybody but Shane?
Yep.
You tried refreshing the app without shutting down the space.
What was that, Brian?
Yeah.
Have you tried refreshing the app without shutting down the space?
Well, I started on my phone and then I threw my phone away, and now I'm on the desktop running the space. And as long as I don't end it from the phone, we're good. But no, you can't do that. I have to go back and check the phone every 20 seconds and respond to requests from the phone, and the phone is everything. But we good. We did it. We're here.
Close enough.
Well,
All
good
right,
evening.
The mic's out, so it should be good. My UI stopped refreshing as well immediately. So that's
Yeah, immediately. Yep. Couldn't even get you to be co-host for it. Was like, everyone's listener, you're speaking alone.
Let me try the old Toby trick here. So duplicate tab and
Reek.
and
Reek.
no, that didn't work at all.
Whoa.
What's up?
Why do I hear you super echoing now?
Wait, now I'm hearing you super. Dude, this Twitter, man. I'll be right back.
Nope. And I resolved it. Problem has been fixed is all that's important. TM, yeah, I just speak it.
Yeah, he said I'll be right back. That means he don't even hear you.
Yeah, what he heard was, "You're fucked up, go fix your stuff." So that's why I immediately tried to correct it.
You had mics open on your computer and your phone simultaneously. I already know what's going on here, dude.
Nope, I've actually disabled my phone. Both like blaring audio, and I was like, "Why is it doubling?" Oh, yeah, stupid Alan or whatever.
You know it's Alan's fault, right?
Shit, I blame that one on a listener.
Yes, it's probably you. Damn. So yeah, Twitter Spaces work well. Do we have a pill? No. No, we don't.
You have a white pill.
And I don't see a pill either.
Wow.
That's because Brian's in here. They're like, you can't have a pill because Brian's in here.
Yeah, they're like, if you get deleted like 4 times in 2 months, then you can't have purple pills when you host Spaces. That's like a fair exchange.
I get a pill in my spaces though, so I don't know what to
Don't tell me that. Jeez. Even you get a purple pill.
see. They can't stop me.
Don't you like how he said even you?
Oh, I love
Even
that,
you.
actually. That
Even-
made me smile.
You got to be a Nazi to get a pill.
Yeah, even you, the resident Nazi, who, even though you hold beliefs that we all hold, you're the one that takes all the blame for it. So that's the way it's been.
I'll do it for everybody, man.
You're literally the backstop at the shooting range, bro.
You're the only Nazi. We all believe the same thing, but because you like responded to some anti-flat Earth troll on some post, you're it, bro. So
It is what it is, man. It is what it is.
dare you ask questions and not buy all the Jewish funded media or whatever.
Have basic math skills.
All right, boys, I've returned.
Welcome back.
Thank
Did
you.
you get sucked to a temporal hot pocket?
I was in an ethereal hot pocket.
Ethereal. Ethereal, he
Yep.
says. Ethereal. Because you can't bend space and time.
All right, sending out more microphones. All right,
Can you hear Shane, Alan?
chain testing. Hold on, we'll have to do Discord trick. Go to you know.
Yeah, he knows.
Just do the thing, he says. Okay.
Yep, we're good. Solved. Circumvented. Nice try, Elon. What's next, bro? All right, what were we talking about before all that happened?
All right. So then we're good. You can hear me. Everything's on voice. Okay. Cool. We've definitely made it. Oh, we got Peter already. First
Yo,
over.
did any of the mics I sent out, did any of those work?
I got one.
Nice. Is that Galatrax?
Yeah, you know who it is. But it instantly muted everyone. So like I can't. I don't know if I go Shank. Shank, you say something?
I can. Oh boy, you got to come to Discord too.
Oh no. Connect to Discord, we'll pull you in.
All right.
It's amazing how many workarounds we need to just exist on Twitter. Like, what does everyone else do when all this happened?
Dude, we went to the moon in 69. What's going on here, man?
They can talk to the president from the moon, but we can't maintain a Twitter space for 6 minutes.
Come on, man. Get your shit together.
Oh, I actually can't pull him in. Rip.
Who, NDS Bear?
Why not?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm retarded.
I mean, I did it.
I was trying to drag and drop and it was like not letting me do it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Mission accomplished.
He's in. We're good. Zetetic popped in. He's like, I don't know what's going on. Well, I can sort of see. Peter's requesting. Yeah, but Peter, you don't have anything to say, but how about you type an essay of what you think that we should hear, and then we'll decide whether we want to give you a mic.
Yeah, we could totally peer review that paper like in real time.
So I think that's funny, being is that you don't have a purple pill.
Yeah. I mean, funny, not funny.
Hit
go
the DM.
But go ahead and type that up. It'd be funny.
Yeah, any comments, queries, and concerns, please address to the janitor in a well-developed essay to be proofread, and we'll get back to you in a matter of.
Boom, boom. Your worth will be determined by the janitor if he decides to kick it on up the chain. You can put your hand up, Peter, but the janitor still has to decide. If he had anything else to say besides datum and orthogonal, we'd probably give him a listen, but we've all heard it before, bro.
But the ether wind.
Like trying to give us a lesson in word salad. Like we're the ones that get accused of word salad. We know what it is. Hence, we can recognize it when people try to spew it, right? Why are you 100%ing that? I was insulting you. Be less amicable.
Orthogonal datum.
There it is. Dude, the Toby trick doesn't do anything for me. If I duplicate my browser, nothing happens.
Yeah, it's because you created it from the phone, so you shot yourself in the foot. You have to create, you have to
Shane's got
create
9
it.
toes.
You have to create it from the browser, and then browser trick works. I tried to do it too, and then I was like, "Why didn't it work?" Then I realized you have to be.
Oh, so I ruined it for everybody. Okay.
Correct.
Wait, whatever you just did, now I can hear you on both Discord and.
Yeah, same. What the?
All right, well then I'll just turn myself on mute on Discord. I just reset the browser, so now you guys can hear me here. Okay, all right.
Yeah, whatever you did, just fix it.
Touche, Twitter. Touche. We see you.
Two chairs.
Is that how you spell it?
Driving again.
That guy, when you're gonna say the phrase "shuck and dive," if you say it more than 3 times and it comes out different every time, it's like, I don't think you get it, bro. Schlucking and driving, schlucking and driving, like what?
Oh man, that was great.
Golfing and driving again.
All right, dude. Speaking of golfing and driving, came across some old flat earth evidence that turned out to be some of the best flat earth evidence ever made. It was presented by Taboo Conspiracy. Has anyone here heard of the Knickebein, or what is it? Knickebein radar system from World War II?
No, I
sorry.
had not heard about that until recently.
Yeah, dude, it's badass.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, tell us about it.
Cool. So the Germans utilized a blind landing radar system. So they basically, the way that it would work is you would have a stationary radar sending out signals, and then actually it sends out an encoded signal that's broken up into 3 parts. So the center part of the beam will give you, if you're in between the center there, your transponder on the plane you'll hear a continuous beep. It'll go beep. It'll let you know you're dead in the center of that bad boy. And then if you're left of center, you'll hear beep, beep, beep. You'll hear continuous beeps. And then if you're right of center, you'll hear longer beeps, like dashes. So it'll be like beep, 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 like just a longer tone, but not quite the one you want, right? So the purpose of this was, if you were landing at night, you didn't have to have any, you didn't have to see anything. You could just use this radar. It would guide you in. You would know where you're at, right? So what they did is they just reversed it and had it so that they could project the beams even further. And then so instead of guiding them in, they're guiding planes out. And what they came up with was a way where you could position 2 radar systems where they could have a cross beam that intersects at some location. So the Germans set up 3 of these systems, but the 2 that we're going to be talking about primarily is 2 stations that were set up in Cleve and Stolberg. And those 2 stations, Stolberg, altitude was second. The observer height was 656 feet. So if you add, so that's adding the height at sea level plus 200 feet for the tower. The tower was only like 130 feet, but we just added a nice 200 to it to make it clean, give maximum benefit of the doubt, that kind of stuff. So anyway, you take the one of those at Stolberg and you have one at Cleve, and Cleve is, let's see, Cleve is second. Cleve's observer height is, oops, that was 660 feet. The other one, I have these twice. I actually don't know what Cleve is off the top of my head. I copy pasted the same images twice. But anyway, Cleve is lower than, slightly lower than, what's it called? Stolberg. But anyway, these 2 beams intersect over Derby and London, right? So what they have is the Stolberg location emits a slightly lower frequency than the one at Cleve. So now they have 2 transponders on the plane, and when they're flying, they're flying at night to do a bombing run. So they're staying in the beam. They're leaving from Cleve, and they're just following that beam in the center, that constant tone, that beep, that's guiding them in. So they know they know they're going in the correct direction. And then when they hear a second beam tone of a lower frequency, that's when they're at the location where it's intersected with their beam, and that's when they drop bombs. And the distances between those, so the beam coming from Stolberg to Derby, England, was 451 miles, and then the one from Cleve is 333 miles. So, and that's the one that the plane flew through. But anyway, this radar system is line of sight. It's not like an AM radio or FM radio where if the signal gets diffracted and bounces off of something, it'll just spread back out, and as long as you got your receiver, you're good to go. And that's not the purpose here. The reason that this system works is because it's direct line of sight, and if you don't have that constant tone, you're not in the right position. And so, anyway, when they get out here, and it was proposed by the English that Earth curvature would prevent such a weapon system from working, right? Well, in 1940, the Germans used this weapon system to bomb a factory in Derby where they were building airplane parts. And yeah, and so they were super fortified and all that stuff, like along the coastline and all that. So they were like completely perplexed at how this could have happened, how they could have done an accurate night bombing like that, right? Because there's no way any radar could have ever reached that.
Scientists baffled, guys.
The Army intelligence officer at the time, his name is R.V. Jones. You could look at the documentary, The Secret War. I have it posted on my Twitter feed. It's like, all primary source stuff. Anyway, you could watch the interview, his account of it. So what had happened is he suspected that they had a radar system that was somehow circumventing Earth curvature, and they were able to utilize it. And in order to get clearance for him to get authorization so that they could hook their planes up and try to find this radar signal, he had to, get clearance for that. So he was trying to convince Churchill's scientific advisor, a guy named Lindemann at the time, that this was a real threat and that this was the solution. So he used he says in his account, like he tells, he's telling the story. He says, "Nobody would believe me, but then I used this unpublished paper from a guy named Eckersley, who computed that it would be possible for a radar system to work like that." Now, they don't go into any more detail in the documentary on that. They don't talk about any of the specifics or anything. But I went and tracked down old boy's paper, and what he proposed here is not for a line of sight system. If let's say you were like, I have the images up as I'm going through this narrative. So if you're able to tune in, you can kind of see everything in the background. But if not, it's, don't worry about it. But anyway, when you pull up this lad's paper and you see what he has going on here, he's showing sky propagation for a coherent beam where there's going to be skip zones. So what they're saying is that the beam would be off at an angle and it would go towards the sky and it would bounce back down, bounce up and down essentially. And that would guide the plane. No. That's not how that radar system works. It would completely remove the the accuracy of it, like the entire purpose is to fly line of sight in that beam so that you know where you're at. And if for some reason, right, say you get into like a dogfight or whatever and you have to change course, well, the beam's on a track that rotates, so they'll bring you back, like they'll use the beam to find you and then bring you back into target. You don't, it's not a skip zone situation. That's not how this is working. This is direct line of sight. So for 300 and 451 miles respectively, these beams intersected, right? At a location that guided a plane from Cleve to Derby, England. Now, the paper that guy presented, is obviously not a real explanation for how that radar system functions. That's not even how it works, right? It's not describing line of sight propagation. It's describing bouncing and skip zones. So let's do a quick meta-analysis. Suppose you're a globularist and you're in charge of science division at Churchill Institute or whatever, right? And some guy shows up and he's like, hey man, there's this radar system that's direct line of sight that the Germans are using to target us. Are you going, and you look at this diagram here where you see these skip zones, are you going to go, oh yeah, that's definitely an explanation to how a coherent beam could reach us from 400 miles away? No. So they just kind of propose that as the explanation, I think, in hopes that, you just take it for what it is and there's just some magic explanation for this. But upon looking at the magic, it ain't there, boys. So anyway, we'll move on now to the real killer here. So it's been proposed by Dave McKeegan that diffraction is the answer here, that this radar system emits a beam and it just diffracts when it hits the Earth curvature, and then it somehow, after the little bit that gets over the Earth curvature, it just undiffracts out, it just spreads out, and it just magically works again with a with the equisignal being in the center, and then the left of center and right of center signals. Like, no, that's not at all how it works. And then further, the real body bag, right, is that we know how much the maximum diffraction was, because when they finally got authorization to get to put the planes on the ground, or put the planes in the air to search for this signal, they found, well, through, like, just kind of skipping through the story, but through some interrogations, through POWs and whatnot, they realized that all the German bombers were just using a lower frequency of what they already had in their planes. So they sent up, so the British sent up their own planes with the transponders tuned to that low frequency, to the lower frequency. And when they were flying around, they found that the beam was 400 to 500 yards. So the maximum expansion of that beam was 400 to 500 yards. So if you break that into 3 sections, right, for left of center, dead center, and right of center, you would get about 150, 200 something yards for that. There's no way that this is anything other than a direct line of sight beam. That it doesn't function off of diffraction. It doesn't function off of sky propagation. It's a coherent beam that you have to be in the center of the entire time. And further, the antenna towers, right? It's like, think of like a billboard, right? It's just a straight thing propagating out horizontally. That's literally what their radar system was. It's not tilted up to the sky. It doesn't adjust or aim up at angles like that. It's just a horizontal propagation system that's on a hill, and that's about 130 meters tall. So anyway, if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, hit me up.
Dude, I love this radar tower that I'm looking at here. It's like completely lateral. It's completely horizontal.
Being such a flurf nerd, you flurf nerd, believing in beams on planes.
Is that piezoelectricity? What's up?
What's up, bro?
Well, brother's just giving a little rendition of the boys out there bombing at night.
Yeah, it's one of the best proofs in modern times.
Yeah, it's the only way that you could explain this on a globe is to straw man the technology, is to straw man how the technology works, and then just claim like diffraction or beam overlapping. So right now I'm in the middle of extracting the maximum amount of globular explanations or whatever, right? So now what's being put forward is that, okay, well, if the left to center signal, like that beep 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 beep, if that overlaps with the intersecting signal from Stallberg, then it'll magically just recreate the structure of an equisignal and left of center, right of center signals. So
Yeah,
I just had to like laugh out loud at that because that's preposterous and that's not how it works at all. And that's like, guys, they hung their entire defense system. Like,
Yeah, that's my favorite part, dude. They're like, all right, so the whole state of the union and the country and the defense is at stake. They're like, yeah, but there's something wrong.
like, yeah, but the ball will protect us. Guys, the ball didn't protect them.
It's like, so what happened to that factory? Oh, it burned to the ground.
What else is super funny is they only have 2 routes, right? They got either like skywave bouncing, which doesn't work, or diffraction, which it wasn't the proposed mechanism. And the diffraction, bro, if you look in the technical specs for the towers themselves, as well as in the literature talking about the towers, they both say that the max beam angle was like, or as it emanates out is 0.3 degrees. Well, if you do the trig on 0.3 degrees on 451 miles, you end up with a beam divergence edge to edge of like 2.35 miles. And if you just assume vertical is the same because of radial dispersion on diffraction, which is, typical diffraction, that's 2.35 miles up and down. If you cut it in half, it's like 1.175, basically 1.2 miles up, 1.2 miles down from center. So it's like you've only got 1.2 miles of beam spreading down. So if that beam is tangent to the horizon straight line is 118,000 feet, the beam spreads down, 1.2 miles. So like 6,000 feet. Go ahead and make it 7,000. Go ahead and make it 8,000. Just round it up. That's 110,000 feet altitude. The planes flew at 20,000 feet. So you've still got 90,000 feet after the beam spread to say that diffraction had to carry the beam. 90,000 feet from 110K to 20K feet at the plane altitude. Bro, 90,000 feet is like, what is it? Like 17, 16 miles, something like that. Like if the beam diffracted that much, right, it would only have an accuracy of like 16 miles, dog. It was accurate. It wouldn't even be accurate within like the same quadrant of the city. Maybe even not even the city. Like I don't know how big the town was, but like it would be completely useless.
Yeah, you couldn't use it for anything like that.
It'd be completely useless. It factually had an accuracy of within like 500 yards, dude. They bombed a specific building from 451 miles away, blind, with no visuals, for a month straight. Every other night for like a month, dude. It's hilarious. Like both potential steelmans don't work. And when you read the book, we didn't even see it until like going back to it after a couple days. But in the book where it's quoting Eckersley, when they were bringing his own paper to him and trying to use it as like to convince him that they need to look for the beams. His paper, which used sky waves, like it's bouncing up to the sky and coming back down, he was saying like it wasn't applicable to this situation.
It's like they all, like when lives are on the line, everyone understood like how that system works, right? What was being utilized, and they were applying it with Earth curve because they thought Earth curve was a factor. So they were like, no, we're just going to be protected from it entirely. It's fine.
Right, so, like they knew how it worked, and why would they even invoke Earth curve if they thought it would just magic bend around it?
Yeah, these after the fact explanations of diffraction and sky prop are coping. It's literally just coping. This system cannot work unless the Earth is flat.
You got to ask the direct question too. If you're going from Cleve to Derby in an airplane, right? And in order to guide yourself in the dark above the clouds where you can't see anything, you have to just totally rely on this little receiver behind your head that's making a sound. And it's just going beep the whole time to let you know. And if you go to the left, it's like beep, beep, beep. When you go to the right, it's like bump, bump, bump. So you know how to stay in the middle. Explain how a plane can stay in a beam the entire time from one city 334 miles away to the other city if the Earth is a globe, because that beam would be shooting up into the sky once it passed the horizon. It doesn't work on a ball. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I believe Churchill's direct quote was, "Isn't it curved, bruv?" And the guy was like, "Nah, mate."
Welcome to the anonymous listener to our space. Yeah, I wish he would come in and talk to you, but you know he won't because he doesn't have his teleprompter.
Yeah, it's all G. Get prompt up, dog.
Have you extended the open invitation to him? Maybe we could, is there a chat for this space, Shane, or no?
No. But he's not going to come, dog. He was watching live on when I did it on Glowbusters, and we invited him on, and he never replied. Stopped replying on Twitter. It might not even be him on Twitter. It's a pretty small account. It might have been a fake Dave McKeegan.
Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 people that were like all over the comments on Twitter, and then after you did that space on Glowbusters and explained it, like all their comments disappeared. It was super weird.
Yeah, boys, we need more globular explanations for this because it's seriously lacking. Like, we're just retards, right? We might be wrong. We need some globes to help us out. Seems to be a huge line of sight issue. And you know what a really cool, fun fact about that story is too, right? Is the British, a couple years prior to 1939, they came up with a similar system somebody proposed, and it was rejected. Does anyone want to guess why it was rejected?
Because the Earth's a ball.
Correct. They rejected the technology because the Earth is a ball and it would not have any effective use over the ranges that would make it, an important thing to start working on.
What's nice is no matter what excuse they try and come up with, they still have to make it work because the bombing raid was successful.
Yep, because no matter what happened, plane flew 333 miles, direct line of sight, and when it intersected with another beam that was coming from 451 miles away, they dropped over a target with with an accuracy of like 500 to 250 yards.
In the dark.
In the dark, boys. Lights out.
That's just that's legendary. This one's only getting started too.
Yeah.
You know, the planes would have to be like 11 miles in the air for it to be a globe.
How dare you, India?
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing that with a 1942 prop plane. They didn't have jets, remember? How they
No.
fly at that altitude.
Right. Yeah, I think they were right. What was it, 19 to 22,000, something like that? Whole
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah, but those aren't, but like the 20,000 is the max operating range. I've heard that they actually fly, like when they're loaded, they fly at like 13,000 or 14,000 feet. They're not even that high. Yeah, because they got to think they're loaded with bombs and everything.
The literature states that, as far as I can tell, that the plane's operating altitude was like 15 to 22,000 feet, but it's generally spoken of as like 20K for the mission. I mean, each mission could have been different. Each plane could have been different depending on payload. But I mean, you want to use kind of like the the upper number. And I think the charts on the towers were insinuating like roughly 20K, weren't they, Alan? When we looked at the curve for the distance and the beam spread,
Yep.
if I remember, I think it was 20K. Because it was like 6,000 something meters, so whatever that is to feet.
So about 4 miles.
It's Shane, how many baby terrestrial meridians is that? He's walking his dog.
Yeah, 6,000 meters is 19,685 feet. So 19,700 feet, but basically 20K.
Yeah, pretty impressive piece of technology. Like I said, if you guys want the video to watch the documentary, all the resources and all that stuff are all in my pin. I don't have a pinned tweet for it, but I'll get you the link here in a second. Oh, I can share to space directly. Nice. Without a what? Without a purple pill? Is that legal?
I do think that was a pretty interesting, regardless. It's an interesting piece of technology, the way they turned it from a civilian night landing guidance system
Yeah. Straight
into
weaponized it.
yeah, and they just somehow weaponized it.
Dude,
like, who came up with that idea?
And the Germans, dog, they were so smooth with it, right? All of their bombing planes used the same transponders. So all they had to do was just tune it to a lower frequency, and instantaneously any bomber is now a Knickebein bomber or Knickebein bomber.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think it's very telling. Like I've thrown this in Glober's faces, I have to admit. Like the globes actually killed people. I've told, and then I tell them about the Knickebein, right? Because they didn't believe it at first, and they did nothing. So doing nothing because they thought it was a globe actually probably got people killed, which is kind of crazy in a way. Flat Earth never got anybody killed.
Well, there was that one guy who fell off the edge, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, that one guy. Oh, the guy with the rocket too, the steam-powered rocket. No. Dude, steam-powered rocket guy. That guy was not a flat earther. He even said it. I'm not a flat earther. Like still.
Oh, I didn't even. I wasn't even referencing a specific person. I didn't know there was a steam-powered rocket lad.
There was a guy. The hell was his name? Mike something. So he went to all the flat Earth conferences. So he was trying to develop a steam-powered rocket that would go to space. Yeah, bad idea. Anyhow, but to get the money for it, he would go to the flat earther conferences, and and there's another component to it, is that a guy named IPS, Infinite Plane Society, gave him $500 to put research flat Earth on the side of his rocket. So everybody started, all the news media, they'd interview him, and he wasn't a flat earther, but he was trying to get money off of flat earthers. But they said that he was a flat earther. Then he ended up taking his last steam-powered rocket and killing himself. They're like,
really?
flat earther. Yeah, so the story was flat earther kills himself trying to prove the freaking Earth is flat from his face with a steam-powered rocket, dude.
Oh my God, bro! 1 second, I just remembered. Somebody actually used that in a debate.
Mike, that was it.
Somebody used that in a debate with me, man. Back in the day, like a year or two, or a couple years now, when Tribune and I did a modern day debate, the one guy's tactic was just to socially shame us, right? And one of the things he brought up was the dangers of flat Earth because that guy killed himself. I was like, what? This is
you guys talking about Mad Mike?
Yeah. I was like, what? That's retarded.
Yeah,
I've never heard
Mike.
of this. This is fucking stupid. It's like, but yeah, he was literally trying to use that as like the dangers of flat Earth, bro. Like, yeah, okay.
Well, he thought it was a globe.
Yeah, he was just.
I know. His selling point was he thought flat earthers are stupid or something. So he set up a little booth at like all the flat Earth conventions that happened, like all three of them, and he basically say, "You can prove the Earth is flat. Help me fund my rocket. I'll go high enough, and we'll see the curve." So he tried to basically get flat earthers to give him money to jump in his rocket and prove the shape of the Earth. But
Yikes.
I don't think he got. Yeah, yikes.
Dude, I don't think he got much funding, dog. Because like, have you seen what happens when we try and fund something? It's not super funded. Like I find it hard to believe we funded this dude's rocket, like in its entirety.
I don't think he made any money. And like, regardless, he must have skimped on safety equipment because he died in the crash.
Unfortunate. Well, you know what they say. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
He did some other. He was pretty like famous, I guess, in Las Vegas for like doing like weird stuff. I guess he had like some like weird souped up limousine that he would drive people around in. There's like a whole story behind it. Like his nickname Mad Mike has been like his nickname for a long time. He's basically like a publicity hound type person or something. And like flat Earth was becoming famous, he tried to glom onto it. So, and then the news media twists everything, so they said he was a flat earther.
Classic mainstream media. Did he steal Man of Sunset before he died? No, he wasn't a flat earther.
I'm waiting for him to steal Man anything. Who was that bozo that Witsit debated?
Oh man, that was young Daryl, bro.
Man, that was horrible.
Extremely. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
We can.
Yep. Oh, I was going to say that I have a theory for why the really high ups in the British military, just were not accepting the flat Earth theory, or like they hid the flat Earth from anybody that they felt didn't need to know. I think they just wanted the Germans to kill as many British people as possible, because the cabal was behind the war, and so they've been looking to kill off the European race for a while. I mean, the Civil War was all about that, because more white Americans died in that war than even they did in the First and Second World Wars. Young American men. So that's who you kill if you want to decimate a population. And I think that.
No, we lost you, Lily. He was on a roll.
Good people in the military. And so I think they couldn't really ignore it. And so they're like, oh, okay. Because I think their plan all along was let the Germans kill as many British, citizens, civilians, military as much as possible. And then, of course, they knew the Americans were going to come. And then, the war was going to turn in their favor and they'd get rid of Hitler. Because I'm convinced that Hitler was a flat earther. I think they were good. They were the good people. I think who was it? I think Patton or one of the big generals in the end, he said that we fought the wrong enemy. Remember that?
I don't quite know the specifics on that, but I know that Germany was also funded by the Batman too. So it's the same.
It was Patton. He was talking about.
I think that there were bad elements in the German army also, but I think that Hitler might not have been the actual bad guy. I think there were other people secretly operating within the Nazi party that Hitler might not have even known about.
Possible.
I think they're all bad guys.
But yeah.
It was a war of bad guys. It was like a mafia, like a gang war. That's basically what it is. It's a gang war between criminals.
But it's also convoluted.
But I want to say something about the freaking Knickebein that we were talking about. In the documentary, how you're like, oh, they didn't know it could go this far and all that stuff. That's there's no way that's.
Oh no.
I don't understand. How's that possible? Because in World War I, they set up a communication system to talk to Australia. So, like, how did they forget? Like, it's only 20 years. How did they forget that they had a military system where they could send radio signals 10,000 miles to Australia? And then now they're confused, like
Well,
how they're doing it 300 miles.
well, for that one though, wouldn't like I don't know the specifics on that, but wouldn't that system be entirely different? Like, because
Yeah, but I'm just saying
because
the propagation thing, because
yeah,
they had no theory of the ionosphere or anything like that at the time, right? So that, like, they're still in the dark as far as that's concerned.
didn't they have
Yeah,
wasn't,
ionosphere came around.
yeah, wasn't Marconi and stuff before that? Like they definitely
Yeah, that
they
came
would
out like 24.
yeah, and either
In
way they
1924.
Yeah,
yeah.
and then Mark like 1901 post-station.
Yeah, and then they could just either way they could just say, you know, well, it's just a radio transmission. You could put enough energy into it, and tropospheric scattering will eventually get it. Like that's why the K Knickebein thing is so deadly. Is they flew line of sight the entire way in a encoded signal.
I think that encoded signal.
Yeah, because it's
I'm
like
reading a Wikipedia article and it's like, sorry, I'm just not buying it. It just looks like a bunch of hogwash because it just says Marconi did this, so it must have been the ionosphere. They discovered the ionosphere because they transmitted too far.
oh yeah, I mean
Not
that's
how it, like, that's
yeah
not how it was
that's
discovered. You know what I mean? It's not a discovery.
that's ad hoc as hell. But what they could claim though is it's just if we put enough energy into it, it'll eventually just scatter, blah 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 blah, right? But with the Knickebein thing, has to be line of sight and coherent.
Yeah, they can't use the ionosphere excuse. They can't use tropospheric scattering, and what's the other one?
Diffraction.
They got a couple of them.
We
Yeah,
know exactly how much diffraction there was. That's my favorite part. Like, oh, dude, there could be, you don't know, there could be unlimited diffraction. Nah, it intersected at 400 yards over Derby at 450 miles, so we know exactly how much there was. Because the starting wave was 10 meters.
I wonder how they aimed it.
What do you mean?
How they aimed it to get it to, like, say they like
That long?
found London today. How did
Oh,
they
dude,
the
this
antennas to get them across in London?
Good old reticule.
This is my favorite part. They dialed it in over the. You're echoing a little bit, by the way, Indio, I think, or Shane. I don't know who it is, but it's driving me fucking crazy. What was it? Oh yeah. So how they aim the radars to intersect? They just dialed it in over the lat long, bro. Literally used the graticule and fucking smoked them from 451 miles away.
Yeah, that's not really a win for the globe, but my favorite part is how you bank like the whole safety of your country on the fact that the Earth's the globe, or the fact that Rothschilds run your country and you trust them, right? And you're like, okay, no worry, we'll never get bombed. And like, well, there's a possibility that if they have this laser beam, they'll never reach. Okay, cool. And then like the factory gets bombed every day for a month, and then you go and meet your people, and you're like, guys, like what do you tell them? Like I banked on the Earth being a globe, we got bombed. Earth is still a globe, but like, what did Churchill say?
Yeah, dude. Well, it's super funny because what's ironic is that the sign, like when you watch The Secret War, I think it was done in like the 1950s. It's done shortly after the war because it's still like old school video footage, like the old black and white cameras and stuff, whatever. But it was like the chief intelligence scientist. That's the one like giving all the details because he was the one that figured it out.
R.V. Jones.
Well, I thought he didn't he have to convince R.V. Jones because R.V. Jones was.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about R.V. Jones. Sorry, you're talking about Lindemann, the guy he had to convince.
Yeah.
Lindemann.
Oh yeah. Okay. So Lindemann was Churchill's guy, right? And because I get their names mixed up, R.V. Jones. I thought R.V. Jones was Churchill's guy, but anyway, Lindemann was Churchill's guy, and then R.V. Jones is the one getting interviewed, and he was the chief intelligence scientist. And it's funny because he is basically giving very specific, not very specific information, right? He like talks about like the whole Earth curvature thing, like in passing. It's kind of like we were so dumb, we thought the Earth was gonna block it, ha 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 ha. But if you think about it for a second, it's like hold on a second. This dude was in a room with the other, like, Churchill's chief scientist and Churchill and the other, like, most higher ups in the military intelligence of England, talking about how even though everybody thought that the Earth's curve would most definitely 100% block the signal, there's no way it could work, it's working, boys, and they're bombing us. So we should look for the signal. And Churchill was the person that had to give the order to search for it. Otherwise, nobody would do it. Like, they literally spent all this time not searching for it because it wouldn't work. It came down to literally the man in charge, Churchill, giving the order. And they still tried to not do it. And he was like, hey, look, man, I don't care what the Bell telecommunications guy says. If you guys cancel this plane flight, I'm going to make sure Churchill finds out who canceled it. And that's the only reason the plane got off the ground. So I think that they probably realized, like, dude, this only works if the Earth is flat, but they all knew how to keep their mouths shut because they were like top-ranking, intel officials, right? Like, these are the people who today would have like ultra SCI, top secret compartmentalized clearances. It was just during World War II times. So I think that the scientists realized the implications of it, but were, not able to talk about it due to the job that they had.
So business as usual then.
Right. I mean, like, there's no way that you definitely hang your entire hat. One of them literally said, like, I'll stake my career on it, that it wouldn't work because the Earth's curve, right? Like, that was, they talk about that in the video. And it's like, no one is going to say that, know for sure it wouldn't work, and then see that it actually definitely 100% works without realizing the implications.
No, he staked his career on the fact that it would work or whatever. Like, the way that they're explaining it through the globe paradigm is that in spite of the curvature, he staked his career that it would work.
No, bro. He's talking about Eckersley.
Mechanism.
He's talking about Eckersley. Yeah. R.V. Jones was like, after the meeting that morning with Churchill, he's telling these people, like, we need to send a plane to search for this. And he was in a room with Eckersley and the actual, like, airplane unit commander. And Eckersley, who was like the Bell telecommunications radio propagation expert, was like, it's not going to work.
Oh, dude, you're right. It was his own paper. And he was like, what are you talking about?
It was his own paper he was showing to him.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
He's like, and it was a skywave bounce propagation paper, right?
Right.
And
Yes, coming
which
back
wasn't
to me.
applicable. Yeah, it wasn't applicable. And he tells him, like, we need to search for it. And Eckersley is like, dude, it wouldn't work. It's a waste of time. I will stake my career on the fact that it wouldn't work because the Earth's curve is going to block it. And he's like, all right, well, if we don't send the plane up and make sure he finds out you're the one who disobeyed the order. And then they sent the plane, of course, because they didn't want to get roasted by Churchill. That was the only reason it ever got in the air. Yeah, so that, like, that's not like Eckersley obviously would have known beforehand on a globe it doesn't work, because that's what he said. He was willing to stake his career on that statement, and then it worked, meaning he definitely would have realized the implications of the situation.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's kind of I think they're kind of inspecific on purpose, because we looked the paper up. It's skywave propagation, not even applicable to the situation because it's a horizontal tower, right? Yeah,
that's what the biggest red flag for me was, like the non-specificity in it. And then he's just like, this unpublished paper is the one that did it. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see if that exists. And I found it. And then you look at the diagrams and what the paper's about. It's not even related to how the actual technology works to be substituted as a physical mechanism for how Earth curvature could be overcome for a line of sight over 333 miles and 451 miles, respectively.
Right, and it would create skip zones. I think that they were using and that as an ad hoc explanation because they knew.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, the only way you can make sense of this as the globularist is to strawman the technology and lie yourself or not know.
Yeah, it's like, so if the Earth was a globe, that factory wouldn't be a smoking ruin or whatever, right? So that's pretty good evidence.
Easy, did you say they bombed for 30 days straight? I thought it was just a couple of nights.
Well, it was over a period because it was from like March until April or April until May, one of those two. It was like on up until the month of May when they found the beams, but they were already getting hit for like the months prior.
Man, I find it interesting that the Germans were like, yo, the Earth's flat, we can hit them. And the English were like, no, everybody won't be fine. And they're like, nah, they're fucking retarded. We're going to hit him anyway. and the Germans ended up being the base at all times. And then when they had to use the whole Jew world to stamp them out afterwards, and then they were like, oh, well, now we have to destroy the German culture and grind you into the dust because how dare you?
Well, dude, think about this, Shane, right? Like, prior to the Germans building these towers, if you look at the towers and like the outposts surrounding them and like the infrastructure set up to power them and to make them work and everything going into building them and designing them, there was such a giant, planned out, thought out, expensive, concerted effort made to construct these in such a very specific manner. They didn't just do all that on accident without thinking about, oh, wait, this isn't going to work because there's a big ball in the way.
Well, that's what I mean by them being based. Like they're not doing curvature calculations. They're not like, you know what I mean? They're like, no, we got it. We built a tower. It's gonna straight beam. We're gonna drop bombs. They're gonna die. Like that's how they think, right? they're the ones who are like, I'm not buying your bullshit. Yeah, well, they're not gonna defend it. Great, we'll do it every night for 30 days. You know?
And then you look at the tower, dude, and it's literally just anchored it just shoots in one straight line. Like you can't like incline it up or down at all. It doesn't have the ability to do that. It literally just rotates and pans left to right on like a railway track.
If you rotate it, it would mess up the bottom dipole array that conforms the omnidirectional beam into a coherent line of two encoded signals. It wouldn't even work if you tilted it.
Yeah,
Dude, that's crazy, dog. It literally wouldn't even work.
Right.
I love it. It's a wonderful. Like I can't believe I've never heard about this. And then Taboo mentioned it like one time in a video, and now we're gonna be beating everyone over the head with it for like weeks.
Probably forever.
Yeah,
forever.
we don't ever give them up.
It's my new go-to because it's like, okay, we see too far. Oh well, refraction. Oh, it's hot out. Oh, it's cold out. It's always gonna bend the light so that we could see for. Okay, cool. How about this? How about
this
a plane
just blew
flying
my
line
mind.
of
It's an
sight?
uppercut. This is an absolute uppercut, dude. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I came in here, dude. It's an absolute uppercut, dude. Talking about punching upward, dude. Argue about that. And then the English. What's fascinating to me is the English were the ones that decided. Hold on, let me pull out my 8 inches per mile squared. No, it's not going to work. Germans were like, we got this.
They were like, look at them counting curvature. Send more planes. Fuck it, you know.
Dog, it was funny too because when Alan made that video about it, like, you know, Alan doesn't have like a huge account because he's shadow banned and stuff on YouTube. The comments get deleted. It's just weird stuff happens. You know how they do. But like the people that comment on Alan's post are usually always mostly the same people, like the anti people that just, you know, stalk him and comment on all this stuff. He doesn't usually just get random comments. Dude, I kid you not. Within like, what was it, Alan? Somewhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours of this video getting posted, some random guy shows up and starts like making all these comments trying to explain it in ways that don't make sense. And then he's like, you know what, man? I'll tell you what I've commented on plenty of other videos. You should just leave this one alone. You should go back to talking about other things that prove your flat earth worldview. This one is not it. Just leave this topic alone. And then Alan was like, that's super weird. I'm probably going to divert all of my efforts from now on specifically to this and only this from now on.
Put that away. Don't look at that.
That's the correct response. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "Don't look here." I was like, "I can only see here now." Sorry. Yo, real quick, PZO. We got a refutation here. His numbers he's using for the drop formula to calculate the hidden height. He's not taking into consideration the height of the transmitter nor the altitude of the plane. When you do the correct math, it works fine. Like, buddy, did
you do that math with an abacus?
No.
Walter Bislin's Earth curve calculator says he is wrong because we definitely took the height above sea level from topological data survey, and we took the height of the tower from the specs of the tower, and then we added some on top just to give them margin of error, just to give them, you know, benefit of the doubt. So
I love when their default is you can't math.
So did you want to take a second crack left lane, or do you just want to like repeat nonsense?
Oh, it's left lane? No, that'll be his standard. He doesn't actually have an argument. He only repeats nonsense. Yeah.
Show us the correct calculation then, sir. Since you can't just baselessly say we did it wrong without providing it. Oh, it works fine.
No,
That
that's his thing.
was on the Earth Awakenings server.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, we know where left lane comes from. It's okay. We understand. We like him, but that's his thing. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna baselessly assert other people's points all night and make none of them himself.
Yeah, this
You guys
is
want me to
definitely
invite him to the space?
this is definitely one of the bigger, or if not the biggest, death blows so far to the globe.
You can invite him. I don't think he'll come, but he'll be polite and he'll defend. He'll give the globular position. But to be fair, we steal Menda better than he will. So.
I'd rather him just show us the calculations than say a single word. Honestly.
Would he be able to do these calculations in an old
We always
time
get the math
manner?
wrong, but they never tell us how to do math.
No, he's got math homework stacked up from me from the last time he tried to do something to miss about ×4. So his math homework hasn't been returned yet, and he's not super good at math. So I wouldn't put faith in that.
I just want to see guys do calculations with an abacus, dude. Honestly, it's just for my own twisted sadistic pleasure. Like, I think it'd be hilarious. So can you bust out this ancient Chinese technology, bro, and show me how you calculated that, and just watch the crickets?
Shane has an OnlyFans, and he calculates with an abacus.
Bro, send me the link.
He's like, I'll do all these. He's like, get out the ephemeris, boys. I'll predict an eclipse with this abacus. But you have to pay him $50.
You know.
I might count it in
I
eyeballs
got
or whatever.
3 red beads, 4 green beads, 2 blue beads. Oh shit, I forgot about the black beads. Fuck, hold on. Right, start over. Come on, man, I want to see that. Come on, guys. Come on, globularists. Bust out your old-timey calculation machines and let's make it happen. We know they're accurate, but can you use it? Show me the distance to the moon with your abacus.
Speaking of old-timey calculation machines, anyone want to guess how the Germans kept track of the signal that they were receiving? If you guess mechanical computer, that's basically like a typewriter that punches numbers when it gets a signal. So, that's cool. So anyway, it kept its what was it? It like kept track of that information that it was getting, right? That constant beep based off of a mechanical computer too. That would register the signals and then give an output.
So they were using 2 receivers though, right?
Yep.
To get, and so they would have that second signal separately from the first one, right?
Yep. So the first one would be like a little higher pitch. So the one they're flying in, they're constantly hearing that coherent pulse. So it's just beep in the background. And then when they get over target, they'll at that intersection point, they'll hear a even lower one. When they hear that, that's when they drop.
I'm picking up about 1 beat per 5 minutes. I need you to pick that up to about 1 beat per 3 minutes. Thanks. I need more beeps.
But dude, killed with simplicity, right? Morse code style beam radar using regular wave propagation in a line of sight. And they're like, hey, you see that city over there? Nah, but it's there. Watch this. Just fly your plane over there. Like if it goes left, I'm going to give you a solid beep.
Dude, that's exactly what it was. Horizontally propagated Morse code.
You're right, because then if you go right, let's give you like a dash. You go left, it gives you like a line, right? And in the middle, you get this solid thing, so you know when you're in the middle. And then when you probably perpendicular intersect the other beam, you get some other fast signal, and you're like, oh, time to drop the bombs, boys, and off you go. Never even look down. Makes perfect sense. Germans were based, man.
Have you guys heard that they're going to bring back the Lorenz system?
I haven't heard that, but nice.
Yeah, I read a news article like maybe a week ago. Yeah, I'll post it in the nest here. But they're going to bring it back as a failsafe in case GPS gets spoofed and it becomes unusable.
What? You can't. How can you spoof What? Dude, can you link me that? And as I do the rendition, you can't spoof GPS for more than one user at a time. It would be physically impossible. Wow, dude.
Dude, it's so easy to spoof GPS. Like,
I can't believe how many times I've heard that argument, dude. It couldn't possibly be coming offset timing and pre-corrected or anything like that. You would that. Like, nah, dude. They're literally making a fucking backup right now for that exact reason, the homie.
Thankfully for us, we're still servicing and maintaining all these radio towers while simultaneously erecting more of them. So, yeah, weird.
Shout out to the Tower Lads.
The Tower lads hiding behind the satellite lads, who are really just the undersea cable lads in disguise or whatever. Good giant episode of Scooby Doo.
Surprise! It was me the whole time. Underground sea cable lad. Oh, that's funny as hell.
Well, I just learned that the English had trust me bro lads that were trust me broing Churchill. And he was like, nah, I don't trust you, bro. Go figure this shit out.
Yeah, but Churchill was like, trust me, bro, right? He was like, the whole country, guys, trust me, bro. Lives, family, livelihoods, you know, not to mention whatever the factory was producing. Trust me, trust me, trust me. Hey, where'd the factory go? Oh. Like, dude, I wish I was there at that last meeting, like the day after. Like, okay, well, we got bombed. But you said that wouldn't happen because of Earth curve. Well, right, about that.
Yeah, okay, hear me out.
I think it was he just pretended that it didn't say it and then let it continue for 28 days until it was pulverized to dust and then never mentioned it in history. And then when you win the war, you read the history, he was like, fuck it.
Never happened, bro. Never fucking happened.
How many of us heard about it until just recently? So yeah, effectively, it never happened. Like Jewish mysticism history revisionists.
Talking about the Renaissance?
They pulled the old detachable thumb magic trick on everybody, and now people are
it's a classic.
noticing. Definitely a classic. It's even better when it's when it's that meme from what the hell is that, from the Avengers? It's Robert Downey Jr. reacting to what is that dude's name? I don't know. I don't care. The guy that wears the gay rings doing the thumb trick, and it's basically just hey, yeah, this is what NASA does to you guys. Enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a bunch of NASA memes. I like the one where it's like a dog just like taking a shit, and then it's like Glober's beneath there, just like waiting for it, and it's like the dog is NASA, and you're like, oh, I get it. Simple, easy, effective.
All right, PZO, let's see what we got here.
Oh, you got some Skylane refuted math. Ask him about his math homework, dude.
He said, would require a presentation, but certainly can be shown. Dude, get the fuck out of here. I did the math. The drop formula is 8 inches per mile square. Sick, dude. Thanks for your contribution.
I would like to see his presentation front and center. You're welcome anytime to do one. No one will interrupt you. I would love to see a Skylane presentation with math.
Same. Yo, if any Globers want to explain this, you are fully welcome to do a presentation on ether cosmology. You will not be interrupted or yelled at.
100%.
No one will do anything to you. You will have complete control to present your stance on it.
We'll even stream it to everywhere.
Yeah,
Yep.
but why do you need a presentation to just show a simple calculation? Like, I don't get that. What was that?
No,
30 second presentation?
No, yeah, I feel that, but I'm just saying, like, the floor is open, dude, because there's nothing. They got nothing. Empty chambers, dog, all around.
Oh yeah. If they want to present and actually like give some actual evidence for like how this is possible on the globe, I'm all game for that too. Like, let's see it.
Dude,
Show us.
We are not the people to like blind bet a presentation on, dude. We love presentations. He's like, I'll do one. Well, have you ever? We do them every week, bro. Like, what do you mean? He's like, that's not the bet to make.
I did 2 this week, boys.
He's like, they'll never call me on it. What? No, immediately. Let's do one. Next week it's you, bro. Come on, Skylane. Like, they'll never call me on this presentation. Dude, that's you gotta love Skylane, man.
No, you really
Get it on the schedule.
I don't love
Get it on the schedule.
people. Right?
Bless his heart.
Back last thing I heard before I walked downstairs was that you were talking about like Left Lane making a completely unsatisfactory attempt at an explanation. You guys ever ask him what his name means?
Nope.
Well, I'm sure if you asked him, he'd probably say something like like left lane, like on the interstate or like the fast lane or something like that. But if you really think about it, I think it's more likely that it's referring to like the left-hand path. If you're familiar
Never,
with the
never
right and
heard of her.
left-hand path.
No,
Yeah, it's like a
I
coordinate use of
don't
your
think
system.
so. Yeah, I don't think he's included it to be in the big club or the little club or even the kids club, to be honest.
Yeah, can I get a kids menu? I just need one for that guy.
Dude, like, not all right. To be in the club, you have to be useful. So the club has useful idiots, man. You don't. Not everyone becomes member of the club, and don't remember, like, it's a hierarchical of secrets, right? So like the lower level thinks they know the secrets. The next level they're like, no, here's more secrets. We know the secret. The next level is like, hey, by the way, more secrets. And then five levels of that, it's like, oh, guess what? More secrets. Then at the end, you're like, guess what? You know all the secrets. And like, oh, but what about that guy that's still above you? Like, okay, well, he has one more secret than you know, but you have all the secrets or whatever.
It's like, yay, I'm playing chess now. And then he realizes, wait, I'm a fucking pawn? Fuck.
Yeah, no, those people are not in the club. Like that dude who debated Witsit, that lower lodge guy, who was like, yeah, I'm definitely like, dude, I think Freemasons are smarter than that. I think.
No, it's specifically part of their entire ideology to put the truth in plain sight and use symbolism to mock everybody that's not them. Are you kidding?
Yeah, what do they call them? The profane.
Revelation of the method, buddy.
But the people in their organization, right? They had to keep those useful idiots to face the public to do good. Oh, like that's all you can get away with. Oh, all the Freemasons in my community just do help people and run events and stuff. Well, how dare you? My husband's a Freemason, right? And he's never done anything wrong. Those are all the front-facing public people, and those are the useful idiots.
Have you ever wondered why, when you get into very specific technical conversations about, how physics disproves the globe, like at certain times they'll be like very, very coherent and intelligent and following you and participating diligently in like an intellectual conversation, and then like when you make a point of refutation, it's like they flip the switch on I'm dumb and don't know what you're talking about every time. You don't think that's a little sus? Because if that was the case, what shouldn't they be in like the dumb mode the entire time, all the time?
They are.
I don't know, man. I think some people are purposefully playing dumb.
Well, I hear you, but I don't think it's Skyline.
Skylane.
Yep.
Who's that?
Okay.
So-
Never mind.
So I think he's so irrelevant that Shane just kind of has a different name for him, but we're talking about the same person.
Yeah, no, he's changed. Like the left lane, sky lane, same thing.
I got you.
He's gone by both names.
I mean, we don't have to keep giving him any more airwave exposure. I just wanted to throw that comment in there.
Nice. All right. So, Ezio, earlier you were telling us about oscilloscopes and how they use those to pretend that they found particles in wave-particle duality measurements when the wave function collapsed and they get their nice little peak on their oscilloscope. Would you like to go into detail about that and give another rendition or what?
Yo, dog. Okay. So actually, yeah, I was looking a little bit more into. I remember a while back, we had taken our very first ever intro crack at Schrodinger's wave mechanics, and there were some particular people in the particle physics lab community that were trying to and attempting to like mock us for it, right? But I took another brief little peek into it to elucidate what some of these equations and mathematical relationships were trying to explain, and came away with some interesting conclusions. So actually, Schrodinger invented his wave mechanics in order to actually create a coherent dynamic explanation of physical reality using waves, and he was actually able to successfully do that to predict and model different things that were needed at the time, such as the line spectra of light emissions from the nucleus of atoms and things like that. He was awarded for it, but he created a Hamiltonian integral expression in order to describe the energy within the boundary conditions of a wave, and then they came along and took the absolute value or the magnitude of that wave function and squared it to say, oh, this is actually describing the probability density of finding a particle at a particular location. So they just took his wave equation, put absolute value brackets around it, and squared it and said, hey, it's a probability density. Now, in physical reality, what's happening? Well, they say that, quantum state superposition is what actually describes particles, such as electrons, right? They say that an electron doesn't actually exist in any particular place at any given time. It exists in all possible places at all times until you try to measure it. And when you attempt to take a measurement, the photon somehow knows that it is being watched, and the very fabric of reality shifts and collapses the wave function, and then it actually appears in one particular location. So you say, okay, after I take all of the retarded mysticism out of it, what's happening on my detector? As they say, well, I'm glad you asked. You see, lads, what actually happens is we take our little scintillator or other type of detector, there's several different types, and when an electron passes by it and interacts with it, it will register a signal from the energy exchange. And this signal will have, a wave-like distribution. It'll have peaks and valleys and 0 points in it. And the area in that signal of maximum intensity is where the particle's location was. So, it might be a very short amount of time, maybe a microsecond, maybe a millisecond, however long the signal blip pops up. But, that's how long the electron interacted with it, they say. Now, here's the thing. In the wave function, the energy does not exist at any one point, right? It has boundary conditions. It exists across the entirety of the region, just like a wave. The entire wave is, it can be said to carry energy. The whole of the wave itself, the entire area over which it extends, but it has different, different amplitudes or different intensities at different parts of the wave. And so when you translate that to the detector, if the electron was actually a point and carried all of its energy inside of itself, then the detection should register just as a singular point. It should not register with respect to time, but that's what it does. See, when it registers on the detector, your oscilloscope or whatever, it registers with a left hand and a right hand boundary and varying intensity throughout. And they say, since the area of maximum intensity correlates 1-for-1 with the area of maximum probability density on the wave function that we squared, that's how we say that the wave function describes the particle. But the entire time they're making measurements in physical reality, every time they turn the detector on and make a measurement, every measurement is depicting a wave, bro. There's no particle detector, bro. It's measuring electrical impulse signals, and they show up on the graph as little waves.
That's hilarious.
So when you pull off the Scooby-Doo mask of the particle,
It was me the whole time.
It was a wave the whole time and always has been. Oopsies.
My God.
Yeah, they also say that, beams of electrons, beams of neutrons, beams of protons, none of them deflect due to gravity. Well, you can't measure them deflecting due to gravity, right? You would think they would drop because all objects drop, right? 9.8 meters per second squared. Everything drops at the same rate. But you can shoot an electron beam in a vacuum and it doesn't drop due to gravity. And they claim it's because the magnitude of the gravitational force, because the object's mass is so small, is much less than that of every other force acting on it. But, even with the neutron, bro, neutrons don't even have a charge. So they wouldn't even have any electric forces acting on them from around them to cause them to, not deflect down. They have to literally claim that when they shoot neutron beams, the strong nuclear force is like keeping gravity from being able to pull it down.
Wait, chargeless, massless, nothing particle that pops
No, it has
in-
mass. They say it has mass. But they say that it is being affected by gravity because it has to be, because it's a universal law of gravitation. Everything with mass has to be affected by gravity. But it's not measurable because they say that whatever the magnitude of the gravitational interaction is, it's so small that it's being eaten up by all the other forces in nature, so you can't actually measure it. I'll be right back again.
Wow, my brain just got a little bit more retarded. Man,
How do they actually come up with mass? Are they using what? E equals mc squared or something like a mass energy equivalence?
some algebraic tricks
Hey,
from all the back.
I think it's all already present. We're just accessing it and manipulating it. So as far as amplitude, there is no time. It's just space, distance, and movement. And we kind of measure these things. Say you threw a ball to someone else and it went miles per hour, I guess you would say, or kilometers per hour. That's just a way to express, the amplitude or the force behind it. Gravity being the effect of the force. That's why they say everything can be affected by it. It's really just, when it boils down to it, a mathematical construct, in my opinion. Not saying it's true. I'm sorry for butting in, man. I wanted to jump in. It kind of shocked me when I heard that. But I got some other stuff, man, about neutrino detectors if y'all want to hear it.
What do you got on the Knickebein detectors? I thought did you have something on that?
I have no clue what a Knickebein. Sorry, man. What is it? Just like
you replied
go
to the tweet on the Knickebein system and said, "Brother, I have some exclusive evidence about these receiving units."
Oh yeah. Yeah, that'd be not exclusive to the flat Earth, I guess you would say. And it kind of has to do with what I was just talking about, the machines themselves, how it reads things, like these different frequencies that we tune into, microwaves, radio waves, and stuff like that. I'm sure the Nazis had just came up with a machine to be able to read their specific output, right? From one receiver to another. And, the receiver being a receiver and a transmitter. I kind of was going to say that about the neutrinos as well, but yeah, I guess that's what I meant. Did I understand the question right about it, or the statement about it? Because I want y'all's opinion too. So I think we can tap into what's all around us already. We just can't see it.
Whoa, what happened?
Oh, I removed them.
Oh.
It was going to be related to the thing.
Did he say neutrinos?
Well, you could answer my question.
What's up, G?
Guess we're not going to get that super secret evidence.
I was
No,
asking how do
there
they
wasn't any.
derive mass?
Ooh, Pizio. How did they derive the mass of the electron, brother?
Right, because I'm good on how they fake to get the mass of stellar objects using algebraic equivalence and Newton and Kepler's law, but how do they do it on like the tiny scale? How do they fake mass there? He said he had to go do stuff.
I don't even think they use mass in quantum mechanics. Don't they use momentum?
No. Well, so
like a placeholder.
So yeah, what they did, right? When J.J. Thomson was taking measurements of the quote unquote electron, right, with the cathode ray experiment in the 1800s, what he was doing was using electric and magnetic fields to cause a deviation in the beam, and based off of that beam deflection, you basically can reverse engineer how much mass would be required of an object based off of the energy of that system. So what they did was they took the lowest amount of energy that they could introduce into a system. They called that the electron, and then when they introduced electric and magnetic fields, the deviation produced in those fields, they equated that to like a ballistic trajectory calculation, where if they knew the energy and momentum of the system, they could reverse engineer what the mass would be. So that was one way that they did it. Yeah.
So they use a ballistic theory of a particle electron for wave-based quantum mechanics. That
Well,
makes a lot of sense.
that's where it started, right? Because here's to give some benefit of the doubt, right? Like let's give the proper history of it. So the leading theory at the time was vortex theory and atomic theory, right? But they couldn't really, either one were just models, right? But what happened was with this cathode ray situation, um, when you can calculate the deviations like as if it's a ballistic trajectory with a particle of mass and all that, in relation to how much electric and magnetic field you're introducing to cause the deviation. So from that, he was like, oh, well, I guess vortex theory is wrong. These must just be particles. Because if you look at that particular experiment and explain it, with the simplicity of reverse engineering what the mass would be and turning it into a particle like that, quantize it, like, okay, fair enough. Right. And then they took that as the building block for everything. So then everything after that was like, okay, this must be a nucleus of the atom and it must have this much electrons because they already had their baseline for the electron, right? So now it was like how many electrons are in this thing. So everything is like backwards derived as a relationship to the electron. Like that's why they needed it to be that way. And then once they had the mass for it, they were like, oh boys, it's massed up. And then that's when quantum field theory came along with Paul Dirac, and they did measurements to the lamp shift of hydrogen or whatever, right? They call it the lamp shift experiment. They were taking spectroscopic readings of hydrogen, and it was supposed to correspond to their conceptualized model of how things work. So if how they conceptualized things worked, the nucleus of hydrogen would be orbited by 2 electrons, so they know the exact amount of energy that should be produced by that. And when they took their spectroscopic readings, they were slightly off. There was a little more energy than they expected. And to facilitate or reason as to why the theoretical prediction was off from the experimental measurement, they came up with quantum electrodynamics to explain part of like virtual particle pairs and interactions to supplement the deviation from the classical prediction. And then that's where we get the birth of quantum electrodynamics to explain what already failed like multiple times, but they can't let it go because they already massed up.
Massed up? We already depended on this mass. We already did.
Yeah, they already massed it in.
Man. So yeah, there you go. Mass runs everything around us, I guess.
I'm back. What did you say?
Oh, Ken was asking how they derive the mass of the electron. I gave a truncated rendition of it, but I really liked your in-depth explanation of it if you're able to go through that.
Oh man. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. It was actually inserted by assuming that there was mass. If you really look into it, so J.J. Thomson discovered the electron, quote unquote. What he actually did, like more specifically, was he took a cathode ray tube and, shot his cathode ray in it and realized that this cathode ray this electricity, right? Electron beam, as we now call it, could be deflected by taking a magnetic field or an electric field and pushing it in various directions from these external field sources. And so he presumed that, hey, since this can be moved up or down or left or right or whatever direction I want via magnetic and electric fields, that must mean that it's made of particles. I don't know how that logic, checks out in his mind, why he thought that was mutually exclusive for some reason, but he did. Even though there were a couple indications that even on the contrary, it wasn't particles, because at the time, if he had assumed that it was made of particles that had mass, he should have also assumed that it would drop, because gravity, right? But the ray didn't drop, it just shot straight and less deflected. And also, he took little thin sheets of metal and put them at the end of the tube in front of the ray, and the ray would actually penetrate through the sheets of metal and come out the other side and hit the wall in the back. Last time I checked, their conception of particles back then was little spheres, little balls that had like elastic collisions. So at that time, especially, it wouldn't have made any sense to think that little bouncy balls could go straight through sheets of metal. So he should have definitely assumed that it wasn't, but he did somehow. And then he, in calculating the forces being imposed, because what he did is he set the electric force, the electric deflection and the magnetic deflection equal, so that the beam was perfectly centered, and then set the forces equal to each other, and inserted the equation for kinetic energy, which kinetic energy equals 1/2 mass times velocity squared. And that's how he got the mass in there, right? Because he also, the Lorentz force for the magnetic field, the deflection of a mass inside of a magnetic field. So he used mass in there with the kinetic energy equation to get mass, and he factored out or derived rather a charge to mass ratio. He ended up with the charge of the electron over the mass, because he couldn't directly measure the mass, and he couldn't directly measure the charge, but due to the derivations of the equations, which I could probably look for real quick,
I got them on
he
the
ended,
side. So it was. Go ahead, continue. I'll read them off. So it was 1/5 times EQ or E squared over mu A. It's basically just distributing the energy over the radius of a sphere, like the way you were just describing, essentially.
yeah, I have the actual equations of like the full breakdown of how he got from A to Z, as well. I
Nice.
just need to find them.
Oh, nice. Send that to me as well, because I got the not so version from the.
They're actually in your DMs from a long time ago, and that's where I'm going to go look for them because I sent them to you.
Oh,
But
respect. Yo, also, we
any,
got an update.
oh,
Just check DMs, but keep going.
Okay. So, anyways, this is what he did to get the charge to mass ratio. Okay, but even though it might not even have a mass to begin with, because he just inserted it artificially. Because if I have a wave beam, right? If I have a beam, I don't know what it's made of, right? I'm going to assume it's made of particles, though, and since it's particles have to have mass because they're matter. So obviously the beam now has mass. So I'm going to use an energy equation that incorporates mass. But what if it wasn't mass? Like there weren't any checks that were performed. There's no way he could check his math and make sure, oh yeah, it definitely has mass. Like there's no way to do that. He just presumed it did, right? And then come along some years later, I think 1911, because he did this in 1897. 1911, I want to say, Millikan did his oil drop experiment. They already knew the charge to mass ratio of the electron. So then Millikan takes these little drops of oil and drops them, and based on the mass of the drops of oil and gravitational acceleration, he has the force, right? The force of gravity, which is their weight in newtons. So now he charges these little droplets up with negative charges and puts them into a negative electric field and causes that field force to balance out the gravitational force downward so that these little oil droplets are able to levitate, right? And by fine-tuning it and getting it just right to where they're set perfectly equal, based on different oil drops of different masses, doing it with a whole bunch of different oil drops, he realized, oh my gosh, hold on a second. Every time I do this, there's always the same ratio. There's this whole number ratio of charge that is used to balance out these forces. And he was able to deduce that there was an elementary unit charge what we now know as the lowercase letter e, which is the charge of the electron. But once he found out what that elementary unit charge was, what E was, then he went and plugged it back into the charge to mass ratio that J.J. Thomson had derived. So he's like, okay, if I take charge over mass and I divide it by charge, I end up with 1 over mass. Now I know what the mass is. So that's how they found out the mass, so to speak, of the electron. But when you think about it, you just got kinetic energy equals 1/2 mass times velocity squared. That means you can rearrange it to solve for mass. Mass would just be 2 times the energy over the velocity squared. So even though, we can represent the mass of the electron as a constant because it does always appear as a constant, in reality, it might just be that there's always the same ratio between energy and velocity for the electron. And they said that the later experiments that confirmed it experimentally was Compton scattering, which is how much when a photon collides with an electron, how much the electron like rebounds from its little lattice position, and that rebound then comes back as kinetic energy on the rebound and deflects it off at a particular angle in a particular direction, and they can measure that. But it operates off the presumption of the rest mass of an electron, meaning they think that there's an electron that's at rest. Bro, there's no such thing as an electron at rest anywhere in the universe. There's not even one. It doesn't exist. It can't exist. Every single subatomic particle is in an oscillatory motion at all times, always and forever. The only place that would ever not happen is at absolute zero, which also does not exist. So like even their whole like Compton scattering effect is based on something that like doesn't exist in physical reality. And so it's kind of funny. There's no actual way to directly perform a first order measurement of mass for any of these particles. They're all derivations based on other quantities that are measured, such as energy, and then plugged in backwards to these equations that relate energy to mass. But once again, if it doesn't even have mass, like, how would you know? You wouldn't, because as long as they use the same equations every time with the same kinematic relationships, they're going to elucidate the same ratios. I personally think that it's kind of alarming that, the beams don't fall to the earth due to gravity. Because I don't care if you make it really small or really big or whatever, dude. Like, gravity it's the universal law of gravitation. That, F equals GMM over R squared. Like, we always cancel out the little m when we do MA. When we do MA on the left, the little m always cancels out every time. Acceleration only depends on the bigger mass.
Are you sure it's not the selective law of gravitation?
Right. Yeah, no. It's like they're saying, well, since the mass is really small, like it just doesn't show up. Like I mean, what is really small? That's relative, bro. That's complete relative subjectivity, dude. But anyways, I'm gonna check my DMs.
Nice.
Excellent.
Thank you for the extended rendition, man. Much appreciated.
Dude, the damage they can do with mass, huh?
Yeah,
don't let them get it, boys.
Dude, and then when they don't have it, they're like, well, this is what it would be, and we'll use what it would be to bolster our other calculations. So now we're double extra right for the moving and the stationary. And it's like, what? How'd you do that? How'd you do that little sleight of hand?
You know how we know it's there? Because we need it to be. So we'll just put it there, and look, there it is. Man. Dude, without a purple pill, it's tricky, but we can still share the space?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. So, or just realized you can just post normally and then just share the space.
All right, that's cool.
GG.
But there'll be no record of those shares after we're done.
Yeah, that's super unfortunate. But it does make it easier for me.
For right now only, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I'll trade the temporary convenience for long-term,
We don't learn lessons here.
I found it, Alan.
My man.
Give me 1 second. All right. This is way back in April, dog.
That A piece, huh?
Yeah, just resent it to you. Picture one.
Has Shane been saying anything? Because I don't think I can hear him again. I had to rejoin.
I've been shattering, earth-shattering truths directed at NDS Bear specifically and in the bear community at large.
In the bear community at large.
So, can you guys hear me?
Sir.
So what he does, right, is he starts with the Lorentz force law. The magnetic force equals the charge times velocity cross magnetic field. For this, straight line shot that they're making, it just simplifies to the force equals E elementary charge, because it's Q, but Q is going to be an E because we're thinking the charge of the electron. So EVB. Now centripetal force, you use centripetal force equals mv squared over r, right? And so then you just take the force from the Lorentz force, the EVB, and you plug it in for on the left side. So you got EVB equals mv squared over r, and then you can rearrange it so that the E and the M are on the left side. You got E over M, so charge over mass equals velocity over the B field times the distance, r, BR. Then you got the kinetic energy equation and the work equation, and he plugs all these things together, ends up with the velocity equaling the square root of 2 EV over M. Then he plugs these equations back in again and ends up with E over M equals 1 over BR times that square root of 2 EV over M. Gets a squared expression, square roots it, and gets the final form of the equation. Charge over mass equals 2 times the velocity over B squared R squared. And that was the final form of the equation. So that was the expression to represent the charge to mass ratio. And by measuring the distance, measuring the magnetic field, and the velocity, he was able to derive the charge to mass ratio. And actually, that's not the velocity. That V right there is not velocity, because velocity is the little v. That's the big V. I can't remember what the big V is. I'd have to go look. It's from the work equation. Is that the voltage? Hold on. It might be voltage.
Could you type a little bit louder? Matter of fact, could you turn?
Oh, yeah. It's the work voltage equation. Yeah, work equals voltage times charge. So that V is the voltage. So I don't know. I could put both of these in a tweet, or you could put both of them in a tweet, but I can't put it to the Jumbotron because there isn't one.
Not going to bother because it's not going to exist after this is over.
There is a Jumbotron?
But it's on stream.
Yeah, it's not going to.
It'll only be for the people for nowsies, and then poof when we're done.
Actually, yeah, but it'll be on my timeline.
But there are so many assumptions. Oh my gosh, so many assumptions made in this freaking derivation he did. Like he just assumed that he could, use the centripetal force mass-based equation and the kinetic energy mass-based equations for some reason, and just threw those in there. Like, we don't actually even know if those are applicable to, to these little particles at the time.
I prefer to call them little lads.
How about little corpuscles or whatever?
Little corpuscle lads.
Yep. Well, listen, if you really want everything to empirically be made of tiny particles, and then you mathematically describe it as tiny particles, you can make it so. Dude, who's eating? Was that PZO?
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Discord would not ever pick this up, but for some reason Twitter's mic is like a spy mic and hears everything.
No, it's because Discord has crisp anti-voice and our voice cancel, and Twitter's bare vanilla wide open air.
Yeah, so spy mic codec so that you can get maximum intake. You nailed it, PZO. But yeah. The old inserting mass where there never was any trick. You hate to see it.
That's how they subvert your math. It's like, oh, what do you got there, Kepler? Perfectly valid equations describing what we see every day. Well, hold on. Look over there. Boom, boom. Put some math. Look, it's mine now. You see that? Newton's law of gravitation is born. It's like, oh, because I added mass, I own it. And mass subtracting mass causes everything that moves in the sky. Just like that.
Right. My thing about Newton's universal law of gravitation, like the F equals gmm over r squared, right? With big G, which very dubious, but the little m always cancels out, and so it's like, how much larger does the big M have to be for the little m for it to be valid, dynamically speaking, for the little m to cancel out?
Ooh, never.
Ooh.
Like if I'm in the middle, let's say I'm in the middle of like an extremely, extremely empty place in space, like way out in deep space, super like a million light years away from every other thing that exists, right? And I've got like a 100 kilogram bowling ball and a 99 kilogram bowling ball, right? Is it okay to cancel out the mass of the 99 kilogram bowling ball? Is that okay?
I don't know. Ask Vsauce.
Dude, it's hilarious that you say that because it always cancels out, except for example, when you're trying to take Jupiter's, like, one of the moons to the mass, it comes out that it's different 0.01%. So unless you don't want to have that 0.01% factored in, and then you need it, is what I'm saying. Also, what I'm saying is that's bullshit, and that's about backwards ad hoc explanation for how we can take the mass out of things when the mass is actually causing all the things. It's quite a conundrum, dude.
When does mass begin? That's a great question, bro. Because the way that quantum field theory starts out is that this mass is an uncharged particle. It's not, doesn't have any charge until this massless object, until it interacts with this discontinued field. So who knows?
Actually, the field itself is the continuous part. The particles are the discontinuous part.
No.
But hey,
Well,
yeah, the field's a continuum.
they made of discrete, discontinuous packets.
Well, the packets are excitations of the continuum. They're discrete, but the continuum's not.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but they look at it through the physicality of it too. So in like it, like, mathematically it's a continuum, but their conceptualized reality of it is it's a discontinuous field, or like
Well,
made of discrete packets itself, right?
well, I think that the fields are considered to be the fundamental entities underlying physical reality, and the particles are manifestations brought about via the excitations of the fields.
Well, fields have continuous lines of force, and they're explicitly against continuous lines of force.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're on the discrete packet grind. So they think that the continuous lines of force are made up of, like, infinity discrete packets.
Well, I thought that the packets only applied to particles. I thought that the forces are actually measured through the fields themselves, right?
Yeah. So
I,
when
I thought the forces were the only thing that is continuous in the universe. Like they think all matter and everything that makes up matter, everything is like infinitely discontinuous. All the manifestations of it, photons, every particle is infinitely discontinuous. It's only the fields themselves that allow for the matter to exist that are the continuous part.
Yeah, if you have a continuous field, if you have continuous lines of force, that implies a medium. So like they're explicitly not on that grind.
Wow, that sounds gay.
Yeah, it's the worst, bro.
Yeah, decidedly fake and gay, I heard. Well,
what's funny is no oscilloscope in the history of oscilloscopes has ever even once been to where, like, I measure a sine wave and I zoom in and it just turns into a bunch of little dots like shotgun shell. Nope. That's never happened. But trust me, if you could zoom in far enough, it would definitely happen, right? In fact, if you could zoom in far enough, you wouldn't even be able to see the dots because there would be like infinitely more space between all the dots than there would be dots.
Yo.
So zoom in more and more and more, and you just end up with a big fat zero.
Well, even an oscilloscope must have a sampling rate, right? There has to be some limit. Can't do like a millionth of a nanosecond or a trillionth of a nanosecond, right?
Well, you know what analog means?
Yeah. I guess you could. There has to be some limit. There, there is some limit. There has to be some timing limit.
So like everything about our reality, the fact that like integration exists, you know, and all the equations that we derive in physics are all based on the idea of continuity. You're correct about the sampling rate, but that's just more speaking to the technological profile of the device on like, how quickly it can resolve changes in the signal, right, with respect to time. It doesn't mean that the signal is not continuous with respect to time. Because
Oh yeah, of course. But you could get from the machine some. You can make it be discrete just from a limitation of the technology. Is what I'm saying.
yeah, well, I mean, so it's interesting. Like we used to use like all analog technology back in the day. We didn't even have discrete computing. These days, when you got stuff with like digital displays, there obviously are discrete functions happening. There's like analog and digital parts in most things now. But like way back in the old days, I'm talking like early 1900s, like World War I, World War II era, when they were doing everything with like vacuum tubes and all that stuff, all of that was like that. There was is the best I can tell, there was no digital conversion at all happening back then. Um,
What they use to keep time? Like what was that?
so that's
Because I remember analog. Like I'm like in my 50s, so I remember analog. I remember my father had an oscilloscope. I remember all the vacuum tubes, all that stuff. I remember all of it. But there has to be like the timing mechanism within the oscilloscope has to be like in discrete steps, right? I
well,
think I don't know. I don't know
well.
enough about. I've never been in the guts of an oscilloscope, so I don't really know.
So when we talk about keeping time, I'm more talking about like what's happening inside of a vacuum tube when you apply current and you have a beam inside of it. But as far as timing goes, those are usually done via piezoelectric things. I mean, unless you're talking like a mechanical clock, right? Which is different. But if we're talking about an electronic clock, most of them have a timing mechanism based on some type of physical constant, like the constant of like a crystal, like a quartz crystal or something, right? And the when applied with a certain voltage, you're going to get a certain oscillation rate. It's going to have a certain frequency that it spits out. It's kind of similar to atomic clocks. Those are actually based on the cesium atom, right? And the frequency that they, resonate at when being hit with a RF wave of a specific frequency. What is it, Alan? Like 9.128 billionths of a second or something?
Oh, you're talking about cesium clocks?
Yeah.
It's an oscillation rate of 9,192,000,000 times a second.
Yeah, 9.192 billionths of a second. Yeah. So, I mean, still, technically, that is discrete because you can't capture the time in between either side of an oscillation, right? Like it's going to go left and it's going to go right and back left again, right? And every time it hits the left or right side, like it's going to capture. So, like any information in between there is technically going to be lost. But that is a digital clock, though. Like that, that's a digital clock. It's not an analog clock. Most of the analog
I get it.
technology from back in the day.
Did you use piezoelectric crystals, I think?
Well, I mean, yeah,
I used to
that,
go to
but
Radio Shack. We used to make little quartz fucking clocks, dude. Like, I mean, if you guys remember Radio Shack, used to be a pretty cool place you wanted to build stuff.
well, I mean, the limitations on stuff like that is still, uh, based on whatever the relationship to the material is. But my point is that, there's still a digital conversion happening, and even in atomic clocks. Back in the day, like the analog mechanical computing that they had, we don't know a lot about it. I was actually talking to a university professor about this just the other day, because he was giving a lecture about like the history of analog and digital computing, and he was like, "Yeah, we actually don't know a lot about the original like analog mechanical computing that they had back in those days, like in like the World War I, World War II era when it was first coming out. It was mostly used for like navigation, and it immediately reminded me of Battle of the Beams. Um, but it was mostly used for navigation and like comms and stuff back then, and all that stuff was like military, so like information about it's not readily available to the public. So I don't even, and nowadays we don't even make it anymore. So maybe somewhere in like an archive somewhere that the government has, there's like schematics of how they built that stuff. So, but it's hard to actually talk about it with any specificity because we don't really know like the operating principles of it. And I'm not saying that it would be any more precise than today's stuff because it would have been subject to noise and stuff like that too. So it would probably be less precise. But analog captures all the information. That's the point of a continuous
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah, I mean, the only point I'm trying to make, I guess, is philosophical, right? So you were talking about quantum mechanics, and like the problem is all we really know is what happens at the measurement. And it reminded me of John Bell wrote a paper called Against Measurement, and this is like almost the same issue, right? We can say the universe could be continuous, right? It might not have discrete elements, but we have to break it up into discrete elements just to understand it because of the limits of, say, our technology or our understanding of the phenomena or something like that. So that, I'm not saying it's not continuous. I'm just saying is like the instrumentation we use, it has limitations so that we can only ever see it in discrete chunks. We can't see it as like as a continuum, right? So it's just a limitation of our measurement ability more
I
than
agree.
anything.
Yo, what's up, Xavier?
Big Zave?
Yeah, I was actually asking if you've heard of D-Wave. Is it D-Wave or D-Ware? No, D-Ware is the Alienware gaming computer. But D-Wave from Google, which is supposedly a quote-unquote quantum computer. What I've heard in the rumor mill, and I have to research this more, is that the qubits phenomenon, the fraudery around qubits, is actually an analog computer being interpreted as digital. Have you heard anything of that? That these quantum computers don't really exist because the science behind it is pseudoscience. So
Oh yeah,
they're passing off analytic mechanisms as digital. I don't know if you've heard about that.
yeah. It's like a big analog random number generator or something.
Yeah, it uses the classic logic gates, right? They call them like qubits and whatnot. They're like, oh, look, they're stored the superposition of the wave, and we don't know. Blah blah blah. Like, okay, cool. So what do you do with that? Well, we pull out a random sample of data that's pre-generated from that, and we say that we could have only got that generation through a collapsed superposition of doing all these calculations at once. And it's like, what? Didn't you just say that you pulled it out of a simulated data set though? From all the stuff that you were computing and then pretending it was what's it called? Stored in a superposition? It's insane. And then so they go, well, the difficulty of quantum computing is maintaining 0 Kelvin, right? Because otherwise, if there's ambient noise, you're going to get the superposition will collapse before it's supposed to, and we won't, it's unusable, right? And it's like, okay, so that means ambient heat will decohere a beam in a what do you call it? Double slit experiment. You can see you can actually use it like a heat source on the beam, and then you'll see uh the particle pattern. And it's like, well, when you do that, nothing changes. It still remains a beam. So like the whole idea and story and difficulty to overcome is all just made up dog shit. And yeah, it's a random number generator.
My thoughts, it's even more than I think there's more to analog technology that are not telling us. Of course, it could add that to the list, but I don't think it's as antiquated as it's made out to be. I still think there's a lot of practical uses. What those are, I have no idea, but it might not just be a random number generator, because why have added security? You know what I mean? But hey, who knows? That could just be part of the the theater.
It certainly adds some mystique. Dude, quantum computers are fake. I think we know that, right?
the qubit is on 1 and 0 at the same time. Sort of like that cat, right? It's bullshit.
Dude, we've acquired a random flurf herder, but I doubt that he'll be able to come speak. He doesn't seem to be able to speak when confronted. He only likes to, comment on things anonymously or be shielded by circle jerks or whatever. We shall see.
Yo,
I'll
PCO.
give him a dollar beyond mutes. I want to hear it.
What's up, bro?
I
Did
want
you
a
see
piece
that?
of that, dude.
Did you see that diagram
Uh,
of the
oh yeah,
explanation?
look at it. 1 second. The farther away you are from a VOR, a VOR station, the higher you need to fly to get signal reception. This is why VOR surface volumes have a slope at the lowest altitude to account for terrain and curvature.
Literally, not even what happened.
I mean, this is completely VHF transmissions follow a line of sight course. Yeah, that's the point, dog. Bro, his name is Left Lane, and he has the all-seeing eye of Osiris as his avatar. And you think this dude is
Not smart enough to be in the club. Yes, I retain that position.
Well, his all-seeing eye is broken or something.
Dude, all right, so how much would it take, right, if I really want to be in a club but they don't know who I am, for me to put on the club wardrobe, right, get the club uniform, go to the club spot, hang out, and do the one-eye thing? Am I in the club or what? I'm just saying.
Dude, the diagram he posted is the opposite of how the technology works. I don't understand what's wrong with these people's brains.
Oh, well, he doesn't get it, and he looked up some stuff, and some other people said this was an answer, and he went, ha! Gotcha.
No, but this is the exact opposite, though.
Yeah, no, I know. But
Like you can look at a cursory glance, you couldn't even mistake it as the answer.
Well, if you're not listening and you don't pay attention, but you're really only looking for, like, why is Alan wrong? Then, yeah, no, it looks like it's a perfect candidate, dude.
Look, so if VHF was blocked by the curvature of the Earth, you would only need one power tower, right? Because the curvature of the Earth would be the same no matter what. You got a 50-foot tower, you can only transmit a signal this far, you only need this much power. But they don't build them like that, right? If they want to shoot the beam, if they want to communicate further, they make a more powerful tower, and then they can talk further. So I don't know what these people are talking about. Because the curvature, like I said, curvature of the Earth would be constant. We'd be like, okay, shoot it this far, accounting for the curve for a 50-foot tower, we need, 1,000 watts. We don't need 1,500 watts. We don't need 20,000 watts. We only need 1,000 watts because it doesn't matter anyway, curvature of the Earth. Right? We wouldn't need to exceed some limit. But that's not how they build them. They build them based upon how far do I want to transmit? How much power do I need? We're going to make a tower with that much power.
Yeah, they actually had a bigger power supply for this radio tower than they have on the the deep space probe that went to Pluto and shot HT images back. I think that thing had a 320 watt power supply, and this tower had a 500 watt or something like that. Maybe
Voyager
more.
has 8 watts.
Yeah, this was 500. So
Voyager has an 8-watt power supply, and it's beaming a signal. What is it, 16 billion miles or something?
Oh, dude, what you know about infinite vacuum propagation with attenuation low enough that you could pick that up out of the background noise?
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, the 320 watts isn't for the radio. I think the radio is like between 24 and 30 watts. Like the rest of it's for the spacecraft, of course.
Right, but you know how they say they bring in that 8-watt signal here on Earth? They just say they have a big catcher's mitt. They say they have an antenna satellite array or whatever, all across the Earth, and they're like, if we use this all together, we can make a big catcher's mitt.
Oh, dude, we should get that GPS satellite ephemeris that was recommended to us.
Oh,
Apparently,
that guy told you how to download it.
Yeah. Well, he said if you have an Android, that was the presupposition, and I, of course, don't. But apparently, you get GNSS logger. It captures navigation, which includes a GPS ephemeris or a truncated version. And then he says you need a Python library to decode it. So like, is it super free, like general information, or is it going to be Python library to code dependent?
Yeah, we should have him do it for us.
Would you trust Tazza? Tazza's analyst on data? Yeah.
I mean, he's just pulling it out for us. He can't mess it up too hard. He doesn't have to do anything.
I'm interested in the ephemeris because that means that they know where every satellite will be, and that's how they never ever break or run into each other in that giant web of interconnected space trash that is super conducted, like like amazingly well. So I want to see that ephemeris.
Are you talking about the one that's full of trash while simultaneously not full of trash?
Yes, but apparently they've plotted all the trash and all the have predictable orbits, and they're never wrong about the trash, and that's the part I'm really curious about.
Oh, so here's the funniest one. I remember when I was a kid, they used to say NORAD is tracking objects in space the size of a pencil. They used to say that, correct?
Yeah.
With a straight face.
The straightest face, bro. And now they say even smaller stuff. We got you up to a size of a dime.
When I did the media presentation, I did that solar system sim. It's like, remember, they say this is happening at all times. Things circling, rotating, bobulating. Like you got like the asteroid belt, you got this thing. They're tracking all these known objects at any point, guys. Right? Be in fear. Everyone should be in fear. At any point, one of these could hit the Earth. So look out. I think that's what the whole point of those we're tracking all these are. Right? Doesn't have to be anything. It's just look at all this danger. You see all these numbers? Look at all them red marks. You guys remember COVID? Like, look at the death count. We need scrolling numbers. Yeah, I think that's what this tracking interstellar objects is about. Just more fear. Like, look how many ways you could die at any time, guys. Like, without warning, you should be fearful. I don't think it's anything more than that. And I don't think anyone can corroborate it, right? So, okay, what's your reading on N2B 64777 over there? Oh, is it off? 1 second. Yeah, get him.
Oh, sorry.
Getting him hard, dude. Sounds like you won. Dude, I can't tell who's up here or who's left or what's going on.
Speaking of the giant catcher's mitt antenna, have you seen Dr. Robitaille's video on the black hole image?
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, the black hole. Do you know how many people think that's a photograph?
All of them, bro.
It's just about it. I think only one person ever said, "Oh yeah, of course, it's just like it's a color map." Only one person's ever said that.
Well, dude, like before I started saving and categorizing everything, I found a follow up to like that first one they did. Do you remember like the big production they made out of the first one that they released when they had they were like, oh, we had this guy work on 200,000 lines of code and some other lady contributed like 2K lines of code. And like there was this whole big thing about how to get this first image, right? And they were like, this is definitely an image of a black hole, super black hole image. And then those guys that did the programming to do all that, like 2 weeks later, were like, yeah, I mean, it's just like what it would look like under a simulation. Like, what?
Well, according to Robitaille's, according to the math, the image would be, I think it was 1,720 times beyond the diffraction limit of the instrument, even if you had an antenna the entire size of the Earth.
Jesus.
Right? Because 1 pixel is supposed to be like 4U, or what is it? Like 4 what the fuck is the moose sign? 4 millionths of an arc second or something like that. Each pixel.
Arcs?
Yeah, micro arc second, right? So that would be 1 pixel in the image. That's what it would have to represent because it's so far away and blah blah blah, right? So to resolve something like that, you need an antenna that's 1,700 times the diameter of the Earth. because we know the wavelength, right? It's 697 gigahertz, right? And we know the Rayleigh criterion. We can do the calculation, and that would be a perfectly flawless antenna with no losses, right? And it's actually absolutely perfect device, right?
That's so funny. We'll have to rewatch that again. Suddenly, the Rayleigh criteria applies when you're talking optics. Man, that's crazy. No way.
Rayleigh criteria applies to any any electromagnetic radiation, right? No matter what the
No.
aperture is. So it's like the wavelength, right? So whatever the wavelength is, you need a corresponding size aperture to pick it up, right, and to resolve it, because
Yep.
radio waves have interference too, right?
Shane,
It's
is
like
that
they
true, or did you just make that up with Flurf magic?
yeah.
100% true. I was just making that a post today, but not about the radio wave, but like specifically about optics. Yep.
Has anybody ever done a double slit with like long wavelengths, man? That would be crazy. I mean, how would you even do that? Like do like a double slit with like 10-meter waves or something and try to get an interference pattern. I don't know how you would do that, but that would be probably pretty interesting. I mean, the slits would be huge, right? They'd be freaking size of a man.
Hey,
Yep.
someone work this one out with me real quick. So let's see, inverse square law of light, right? I brought that up, and our little potato buddy was like, "Oh, this destroys flat Earth," which of course they all say because they're retarded. But this particular one, I was looking at it like, how do you figure that? How do you calculate the luminosity of a sun that's local at the same size, but not using heliocentric parameters, and then include it's far too luminous, it'll never be nighttime? What real world parameters are they using with the inverse square law to conclude that based on its actual luminosity, the flat Earth will never have nighttime? Does anybody know? Because I was trying to look into it.
Never met her.
But that wouldn't even be the right equation. You know what I mean? That would, because air is absorptive, right? So you would need the optical extinction of the medium, right? I think it's called. I'm trying to think of the law that I can't remember it off the top of my head. The Brewer law, or Brewster law, something like that. I can't remember. Let me look this shit up, dude.
Hey, I'll put the post about it in the
It's
jump
got an
box.
optical depth. So like they design lighthouses. I looked up like this is way back. So on Google Books they had like a lighthouse engineering textbook, like how to engineer lighthouses, and they have all the formulas for how you calculate how bright of a light bulb you need, and then how far that bulb can project, right, and that somebody can see it before the light gets absorbed by the air. Plus, in meteorology, they'll measure the the meteorological conditions, and they'll predict what the local visibility is, right, for at airports and for ships and all that stuff. So if you look up your local weather, it has the visibility there. That's based upon a calculation of the whatever the meteorological conditions of the day are, and based upon how much the air itself absorbs light, right? So it's beyond the inverse square law. It's like an exponential function.
Yeah, no, it is. It is exponential, right? Inverse square law proportional to the distance, but I mean.
Yeah, I know you guys know all this. I'm just like anybody else that's in here that's listening that don't know, and you're like, how does the sun? Why don't it light up the whole disk?
But I think their actual position, like when applied to the sky, it's like, yeah, the inverse square law is like real, and whatever it hurts flat Earth. But like whenever you look up, it suddenly stops applying because like reasons. I think there's a little bit more to it, but not much more. It's like, well, we need to be able to see the light that's traveled to 93 bajillion miles, but also 6-foot observer height, 3-mile horizon. So like those two things don't meld at all when applied. So, when I look up at the sky, my angular resolution, everything changes, and I can suddenly see for billions of miles through endless galaxies and endless dust particles through endless vacuum. It's like, no, it's the same. It's the same eyeballs. It's the same everything.
The funny one is, why can't we see the sun at night? Like, dude, because it's night.
So
that's how we define night. When we don't see the sun anymore, then it's night. Like, why would you see the sun at night? Are you out of your mind?
That one reminds me of the David Weiss video where it starts with like the giant heliocentric sun creeping on the flat Earth, like the sunrise. It's like, dun, dun. It's like this is what you'd expect. It's like, no, that's retarded. Nobody would expect that. Nobody would expect a giant sun on flat Earth.
Yeah, you got to tell these guys, like, the flat Earth you made up in your head. I don't believe in that flat Earth either.
I'm just trying to figure out what base luminosity did you calculate on the real world observations that you could use to conclude, listen, I should never not see that sun. I'll
They
look
think you
into
can
it.
see stars billions of light years away. So, like,
At the same time, yeah, that's the argument.
but then, you ever hear of Olber's paradox?
No.
Yep.
What's that?
Yeah,
What's that?
the sky should be basically white because if there's stars,
Oh
and
yeah,
there's
I didn't know
trillions
the
of
name.
stars, and the light's coming from trillions of stars. Everything should be lit up all the time.
Right.
It's omnidirectional, no loss, et cetera. And these are all giant spheres that are unimaginably larger than the sun we see in the sky. Yeah, the whole night sky should just be opaque or light gray.
Is there a steel man for that?
Yeah, it's called Hubble expansion. So the distance between the stars is expanding 4 times the speed of light. Like the universe is expanding all around us.
Well, oh, so it's just creating space between the stars, and that's why it doesn't fill everything in.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a star there, but the light hasn't got to us yet.
Dude, it's so retarded thinking space itself is stretching out. Like, there's these 2 stars that we're touching, but then they, like, everything just spaced apart. They're not actually moving. Space itself, like, what the frick? It doesn't.
In perpetuity as we move.
But are the atoms and molecules expanding? Like, is everything? Is it like expanding in every direction for everything, or like, are we getting bigger? But we just don't realize it because the space around us is also getting bigger.
No. So check it out, bro. We're in the galaxy, and we're in, we have the local solar system, right? We've got our own gravitational well that keeps space-time from expanding out from underneath it, so to speak. So we're not going to experience that same kind of expansion. But when we look out at things, like other stars or whatever, right? And the distance between those, that's what's expanding at 4 times the speed. Because there's nothing between them, and that vastness or whatever, like, I don't know, it just keeps expanding outward because, Big Bang or whatever. But like that's the rationale for it. So if there's enough gravity in a system, then like everything will be like localized, contained. So like that'll stop the galaxy per se from separating out infinitely. But the way that I don't know, retarded, dude. It literally doesn't make any sense now that I'm even saying it. So stupid.
Yeah, I know. When you say it out loud, you're like, this isn't my theory. Somebody else's. I'm not taking responsibility for this. Yeah, so like, but then the thing that's causing the expansion is dark energy, right? That's what's pushing everything apart.
Yep.
Okay, and then the dark energy, when they predicted what it was, they were off by 120 something orders of magnitude, right?
I think that was in relation to the mass of galaxies, something that's neat, or the dark matter mass that's needed for gravity, right? Like to hold a galaxy that's spiraling out together or whatever.
No, I think that it was a dark energy one because that what the energy should have been was based upon the 0 point like quantum foam that they said existed, right? And that's what they thought the dark energy was that was pushing everything apart. But then when they did the calculation, they were off by 127 orders of magnitude.
Yeah, it
And
sounds
Michio
familiar.
Kaku called it the worst prediction in the history of physics. So quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, is simultaneously the most successful and worst theory at the same time.
So it's just like relativity. It's the best, most surest, best predictable theory ever, and also the most retarded dog shit to ever be regurgitated by a sheep. Wow, what a wonderful theory.
Yep. So we got some hands. I can see out. We got Mastar, Lily, and Zave. And then I guess if anyone else wants to get a hand up in between those lads, or after those lads wrap up, we're gonna end the show.
You want me to go first?
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Oh, Miss Terry, did you want to go? Oh, okay. Anyways, yeah, I was just gonna share this really quickly. I was looking at the moon last night, and my window it's double paned, right? There's two glass panes like in the window. And it's interesting because I was looking at the moon, but then there was also, I could see a second moon because of the double glass. And it kind of made me just wonder about like what the nature of maybe there's some, uh, gaseous or ionized gases or whatever kind of domes that might be moving because the second the reflection of the moon in the glass window, the second one, the fake one, that was uh, away from the actual moon, the moon that I was looking at, the real moon. But yeah, anyways, that got me thinking about that for a second, and it just made me wonder because there could be some optical stuff going on with the ionized domes above us or what, gaseous domes or something. Anyways, and then the second thing is that I know that most people here probably have heard me say this before, and most people are probably already they contribute or whatever. But I just wanted to, for anyone that's new or maybe listening in the future to this recording, I try to get on here every week to shamelessly beg for our 5 teachers. I think it's so important because the more we can support them, the scope of their work can get much wider and larger, and they'll be able to purchase better equipment. In the future, they might be able to like hire assistants or whatever. I mean, it's just with more funding, there's just more growth. That's just the sad reality of the whole thing today of our lives. And so I just wanted to inspire everybody to try to do a monthly contribution to Shane and Whitsit and Alan and Toby and Stone, our 5 main teachers. And they're always digging up material for us to learn from. And there's so many, probably scores, maybe even hundreds of um, physicists and astrophysicists whose work has been suppressed in the 19th and 20th centuries. And, they dig up all this stuff just like this beam, like the Battle of the Beams, which is, such a death blow to globe theory. And so to continue their work, I think it's really important to support them. So I just wanted to get on here and shamelessly beg on their behalf. And I love all you guys and keep up the good work. And God bless everybody.
Thanks, Lily. Much appreciated.
You can have my mic back if you guys need it.
I would just like to add in that if you don't support these guys, you're actively participating in the onslaught of baby penguins. Because allegedly these guys are staging an effort to defend said baby penguins. So if you don't contribute, baby penguins may or may not be at risk.
The blood is on your hands.
I'm comfortable with this message.
Is it a Lefowski reference?
I have no idea.
Your life was
You know
in
how when you're
your
running
hands.
for political campaign, you don't like say how good you are, you just say how shitty your opponent is? That's kind of what we're going with. We win by default. Who else we got? Xavier up, mister?
Yeah, I'll be quick just because I'm about to put the boy to bed and everything. But Run Boston Bear sent me a podcast of a doctor's. Let's see, let me look at it. He showed a clip last night, I think, in the Discord, but it is of Dr. Stephen Young. It was the Way Forward podcast. Dr. Stephen Young is a theoretical physicist, or at least he was, and he left his occupation because of the fact of scientific dogma. I could link this podcast into the chat, either or, but I was gonna ask if you guys have heard of this dude because what he says is pretty incredible, and he might be a very good source. I believe he's in Scotland, but it seems like you guys have some magic fingers in being able to get a hold of people, and he might be someone that you guys might want to talk to, seeing as he was a theoretical physicist and is now a flat earther. So I was just curious if you guys had heard of him and if you want me to drop this link in the chat.
Drop it, brother. Never heard of her.
Yeah, I highly recommend
you said that
watching
earlier,
that.
dude.
It's super good.
What was that?
I highly recommend watching that. JT sent that to me as well. It's super good.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'll put it in. Let me see. But yeah, that's all I was gonna mention. Because I know you guys have been doing your thing, and he's already whining. How do
Get that boy his apple juice.
Dude, how'd you
I
not
know,
bring him
huh?
apple juice already?
You don't get apple juice anymore, boy. Okay. I'm gonna share. Oh, shit. Should I? If I share it to the top,
just post it on
should
Discord.
I put it in the?
Or
What's
DM
that?
it.
Listen, we don't have any resources or
Yeah.
tools, or just put it somewhere. We'll
Yeah,
find
just
I'll
put it wherever you
just
want.
fucking put it out there in the ether. All right.
Hell yeah.
Just
Figure
put it out.
out.
We'll pick it up.
Yeah, but if you guys can, maybe try and reach out to this cat. He would be super cool to talk to, see what he knows, you know? So that's all I was going to say.
Oh yeah, brother.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you guys. Thanks for hosting the space. By the way, Liliana thinks Hitler is a flat earther. Just that's one of the key takeaways from.
Well,
I am the newest Nazi now. I think.
Whoa, they're gonna have fun
Yeah.
with that clip.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I'm gonna give Brian Sweet a run for his money.
That's a good attitude. I like it.
Hey,
Step
Shane.
right on up and give it your all.
If I have an image on Canva, how do I rotate it? Oh, never mind. Sorry. I thought we were super sidetracked.
Edit.
Sure.
We have other hands still. Wait, what was I gonna say? I forget. I'm all about Canva. Oh yeah, I heard on good authority, maybe, or like an educated guess that there might be a Flat Earth Friday this week.
Ooh, Flirt Friday? I'll take.
I think we all miss it. But also, we kind of did a hodgepodge thing because we changed our schedule and we didn't really know what we're gonna do with the Twitter Spaces. So Wednesday night, maybe that's a thing. No one else has Wednesday night, right? Nothing else going on right now.
Nope.
I saw Witsit in a space, but he's usually doing those oddball spaces. I don't think that one's steady. So then Wednesday night will be our new thing, maybe? Potentially, probably.
Sounds like it. Was there anyone else that had a hand? Are we about to dip out?
I don't see any, but I haven't seen anything all night.
Heck yeah, brother. Same. All right. Peace, y'all. It was a great show. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you guys for Thursday. We'll be doing research and reading night. We're going to be going over the Marinov motor. So that'll be exciting. A little perpetual energy, I think it is. I can't remember exactly the specifics on the Marinov motor, but it's one of those deals. Sounds pretty cool. So we'll get into that. And then Friday will hopefully be a Flat Earth Friday. If not, we're going to have Nick Cage and Liliana see who can become the most racist.
We're going to have a race off, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, we'll be having the first race off. So that'll be fun. Make sure everyone, don't be late for the race war, boys.
See who become the most hateful. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on Friday for that. And then it all repeats the following week.
Oh, so tomorrow night, right?
Yep. Tomorrow night for research and reading, and then the next night will be Flat Earth Friday and or race war.
Oh, so tomorrow night you guys are on Discord. Is that the deal?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
And Cassander, I think, will be there. Mr. Bennett's expressed some interest. We'll see.
I will
nice.
send the airship.
Aw, thank you. Hey, yeah, good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Later. Yo, Peasy, I see your mic going off. You trying to chime
Night.
in, brother?
Oh no, my bad, bro. I'm like over here finishing up my homework. See
All right, peace. Already left.
you, bro.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
All right, lads, you heard it here first and last. We'll be live tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. PST. And then Friday will hopefully be Flat Earth Friday, or it'll be a race war. So we'll see how that goes.